You started taking erotic photos in 2005, and before that you worked for a local newspaper. You had a fling with a coworker and ended up at Power Exchange in San Francisco for your introduction to SM and swinging. About the age of 40, you started taking photos of men with you in sexual situations. In 2011, Passion published a book of your photos and stories titled Days of the Cougar. Mm-hmm. Do you remember your first photo shoot, having sex and taking photos? When you were done, did you know this is what you wanted to do from now on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I actually, when I first started, like the first time I took some photos was actually with negatives, like an actual camera, that wasn't digital. And I was just shooting the person without any kind of sexual interaction. And then I started putting myself in the photos without actually having intercourse or playing even. And then I think I got like a call from someone that said, I really like the photos we got, but can we just play, And I thought, yeah, let's do it, But I think I still picked up the camera even then and just started, playing with the camera. It just sort of was very organic how it just sort of happened, quite honestly. It started being like a storytelling situation.
What were you like as a teen?
I was raised very Catholic by my dad, so I went to an all-girls school in Sydney, or near Sydney, Australia. Yeah. So I was pretty rebellious because I moved there when I was 12. And really, I was very horny actually as a teen, even like being in an all-girls school. And I was even reading back on a diary that I was writing, but I was very, very, I've got myself, had an orgasm from masturbating. I really thought I was going to go to hell, like seriously thought. I was scared to death, like it was torture really. But I guess I was pretty rebellious, but not terrible. I went to school every day. I got pretty good grades and all of that. But, I was smoking and didn't do any drugs, but, drank a bit, Even at, Australia you could drink at 18. So kids were drinking like at 15, 16 pretty much on a regular basis.
And when was your first sexual experience?
My first sexual experience would have been when I was about 14 or 15, and this was when I was in Australia, and like I said, we were all drinking pretty young, and it was one of those things where I really, I was at a party, and I quite honestly, I don't remember if I remember some things about that night, but I don't remember everything. That's probably a bad thing to say. But it wasn't terrible. It wasn't a terrible experience. But
we've all been there.
It's like, I mean, even at that age, it's like, geez, did I go all the way with that? That guy? But I don't think I did. But there was always sort of like this thing, like, I'd say my real first time I was actually kind of a late bloomer. If that wasn't the first time, then I would say like 18 or 19 was the first time I actually had sex, full on. When I remembered it.
Has this lifestyle had an adverse effect on your health?
No, I wouldn't say it has actually. If anything, I think it's had it's been. I think it's done sort of like good things to me, Like I think I feel like I'm much more, I'm a happier person because I've gone through different things, I don't think I partied too hard, a little bit, but I was never into hardcore drugs or, a few here and there, like an LA scene, but nothing major, yeah. And sex-wise, I'm very careful. You know what I mean? I get tested all the time. I'm very responsible about it. I'm not just like, willy-nilly out there.
Yeah. When did you take an interest in photography?
From a really young age, actually. I had a brownie when I was probably about 6 or 7. And even from then, I always thought I'd be a photographer. And when I was probably about 17 or 18, I was I bought my first camera, like a Pentax, like a K1000, I think. Maybe it was a little bit later, but 18. Just regular, like just like 36 film camera, basically. It must have been like probably a little bit older, but I've always loved doing photography. And when I worked for the newspaper, actually, it wasn't erotic. It was more like doing like a reporter type of stuff. I did everything from the front page to, this real estate section. Like I really covered the whole paper. I had like a little article, like question man, like I'd ask people in the street a certain question each day or each week. And then I also was working for Mix Magazine, which is a sound production magazine, and that's when I came to LA and started getting to know the whole LA scene, like Warner Brothers and the Grammys even and all of that. And I was sort of intermixing that with the HR stuff or the corporate world. So it's a bit of a in and out type of thing.
That sounds like fun.
No pun intended.
Yeah. Not a lot of people were taking photos at that time. I mean, not like today.
No, exactly. Yeah, for sure. I definitely, I even taught kids like a darkroom class. I had my own business where I was doing darkroom to digital, and I was doing like film with them and then digital, and we would do like the full darkroom and take the negatives and then turn them into the whole digital side. It was very interesting. It was fun. It was a really fun thing to do. So I did that for quite a while, and then when I started shooting erotic, I obviously quit doing the kid thing because it was too much of a conflict. But I've been involved with photography for quite a while, way back. And even when I was in my 20s, I was friends with Elliot Irwit, who's a Magnum photographer, and I stayed with him for quite a while because he lives in New York, but I knew his ex-wife now, Susan. She was actually my babysitter, and now she's married to Barry Sonnenfeld, who is a director and photographer in his own right. They now live in Telluride, but it's an interesting sort of way this whole photography thing has always been involved in my life, really. But I had a show really probably my 25, when I was about 25, I had a gallery show, but it wasn't erotic. It was things I shot in Amsterdam, like mostly murals and doing some like real abstract stuff, very large prints. So I've been doing it for quite a while.
When you, I guess, moved from the reportage to your own, art that you're working on, your own, are there some photographers that maybe inspired you to go in that direction?
I have to say Eric Kroll was the very first one. He was, and also, well, he was definitely my inspiration, I think, because I didn't really know much about the erotic photography world, quite honestly. I sort of fell into it a bit, and then, but it was pretty shortly after that I discovered him and a few others. Helmut Newton, of course, is wonderful, but I've worked with some amazing photographers, George Pitt, Gary Breckenheimer, several. No, I can't think of any names, but there's, quite a few. Yeah. Ed Fox, he's another one. He's a cool friend too.
Me too.
Yeah.
When you made your life change, I guess, into shooting the erotic stuff, like you being, the subject as well. Yeah. Did your friends start to treat you differently?
It was really like a division of my worlds almost, because my corporate side of things was very separate from my other life, and it was very unusual for them to co-mingle. And when they did, it was almost like I feel like an asteroid was hitting, like, oh my God, And there is actually kind of a funny story about that, because when I was working in the corporate world, I was an HR director, I think I said that. So I ended up, I fell in love with my boss, and that's why I quit doing HR, and then I started feeling very sexy and very alive, and everything just seemed to blossom. And that's when I started shooting the erotic stuff. But I ended up having someone call me from my job when I was working in the corporate world, who was a consultant who I really did not like, quite honestly. I wanted to have him fired or let go of. And we ended up shooting together, which was really interesting. So we had a whole, but when he called, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? It was almost like, the two worlds really colliding in a way. But then it's sort of like I was so comfortable with what I was doing. It felt so much I was on the right path. I really fuck it, basically. I really didn't care. It was like, this is who I am, and I had absolutely no shame or anything around that. Yeah, so it was fine.
Did that power dynamic make it more interesting?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, and the fact that he was a consultant, and we both acknowledged we had this sort of like rivalry, in the office, and I became a complete dominatrix to him, whipping him and doing all kinds of stuff to him. Well, photographing him too, of course, but
secondary.
Yeah, it kind of was. But you get some great shots when you're, if I say so myself, like when you're actually involved, and because you become you're immersed in it to a point of you get certain angles you wouldn't be able to get if you're just shooting it from afar, So anyway.
How do you, I didn't even have this written down, but I just thought about it now. How do you, when you talk about camera angles, it's easy when I'm photographing because I'm so detached from the shoot, from the model in a way, mentally. But you can't be.
I'm not at all. I know there's for me it's almost like a therapy, and it's almost like totally being immersed into it. That's all that I am and see in that shoot. There's nothing else outside of that. It's very much intertwined in a way that's it's a real connection I get with that person or people even. It could be a full group setting, And I love creating these fantasies for people, like, if they want to add people to the shoot or whatever. And I've had married men, married couples, and they asked me to bring in a male model for them, sight unseen kind of stuff, and shoot that. And the husband would go away while I shoot it, and then he'd come back and look at the photos and sort of have this, some really cool stuff. Like, I feel very lucky to be in this position where I feel very blessed in a way. You know what I mean? Like, that people trust me enough to let me explore and expand their horizons to a certain point.
How many years have you been doing this?
Well, it doesn't seem like that long, but it is now. Okay, at least I would say 20 years, maybe, give or take. Maybe 18 to 20. Yeah.
And what's next?
Well, I really like doing the whole fantasy capture, where I'm, in all sex, orientations, everything, and I've shot with TSs to everything, I love it. I really don't have just one particular type, and I like the whole, just the stories to me are fascinating. I'd really like to put together another book, maybe, or maybe just some kind of maybe just really work on my site so that people can sort of see more of what I'm doing. Because I do want to share it. I feel like it's really interesting, and I think a lot of people can relate to it, because I'm actually seeing people that are sort of everyday people, people that have been married for 20 years or 30 years and haven't had sex maybe in 8 or 10, and just want to fulfill a fantasy, or people that have had a good relation, sexual relation with their spouse or girlfriend, boyfriend, but want to add to that. And I just feel like I I can provide a really cool place to do that. Whether I'm involved or not, I don't have to be. I don't pressure anyone at all. It's not that big of a deal to me if I'm either in it or not. I can still do what I'm doing. Do okay, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.